Okay, I know what you're thinking. Clickbaity title, there isn't one great pump to rule them all. I think there is. I've tried a lot of pumps. I owned a lot of pumps. In fact, this pump I lost and bought again because I liked it so much. I am not being paid by the manufacturer. This is simply my opinion on all the pumps that I've tried, and believe me, I've tried a lot, because when you do get a flat out on the road or on the trails, fixing that flat is a giant pain in the ass. And I don't know, maybe I've gotten unlucky and I've had to change a lot of flats in my life, but having a good pump with you, I think, is incredibly important. Probably one of the most important things, other than having the right nutrition and clothing on your body when you're riding. And this is the pump. This is the Lezyne CNC Tubless drive. I am in love with this pump. This is not a perfect pump. There are issues with this pump. No pump is perfect. But out of all the pumps I've tried, this one is the best all-around pump for everything, I believe, except for road. If you need a high pressure road pump, there are other options for this, and I'll make some recommendations. But for everybody else, this is an amazing pump. And I'm going to take you through the features and the negatives of this pump so you can make a choice for yourself whether this pump is your perfect pump. Now, I have an older similar design from Lezyne. This is like a micro floor drive. And the idea here is that you have a pump that kind of acts like a floor pump, right? You put this down, you can put your foot here, and you put this on your thing. It's got even an inline pressure gauge, and you go. There are different versions of this pump, and this is nice. It is a bit bulky though. You see the size difference. I use this on my commuting bike. This is a great pump. It does have similar flaws to the other one, but I'll get to those in a moment. What do I like about these pumps that no other pump manufacturer seems to do as well, which is the hose. This is my previous go-to pump. It's a Crank Brothers pump. The thing that I don't like about this pump is when you have it on your tire, you then kind of have to turn the clutch on, and then you're holding this while trying to knot this hand too much so that you don't bend your valve or break it or something worse. And with a hose, you don't have to worry about that, because of the hose is attached to your pump, and you can go pump away, leaving this attached to your wheel, and it doesn't really matter. The hose is a very good length. It's possibly even a little bit too large, but the reason it's so big is that it can wrap around nicely around the pump. The volume of this is quite high. Unlike this pump, which has a clutch mechanism for high pressure, low pressure, this thing is just the size that it is, and it is limited to 30 PSI. Now, for all the riding I do, that is plenty. Remember, when you're at this sort of point where you're fixing a flat, you're just happy to be riding again. And 30 PSI is pretty much good for everything. A bit low on my gravel bike, more than enough on any of my mountain bikes, and especially my fat bike. But if you're really in a hurry and you need to go somewhere, the big party trick, of course, of this pump is that the handle unscrews and it reveals an entire CO2 inflation kit built in to the handle of the pump. And so here is your reamer, some bacon strips, your tire plug. So you can just get it in there, ream it, and then put the tire plug in, seal it. And of course, this is a CO2 inflation system. Now, this isn't my favorite sort of CO2 inflation system, this one here, but it'll do the job. This is just a carrier, and then you would do this, and away it goes. Lezyne is not the first company to do that. Components has an entire toolkit that will fit into their pumps. It's quite a nice little concept, but that's not what this is, and that's fine. There's even instructions printed on the inside on how to use it, in case you've forgotten, because you are lucky and don't get punctures as frequently as I do. You'll see a lot of videos right now with electronic pumps, portable pumps. Battery and motor technology has gotten really good to the point where you have, portable electric pumps. That's really nice. Great. You have, of course, CO2 inflation cartridges. The problem with those is, they cause waste and they're finicky, and if you get it wrong, you've just wasted a CO2 cartridge. Pain in the ass. That, and you have to buy replacement CO2 cartridges. The thing I like about a good pump is that it will always work. what are the chances of it not working, right? Very slim. I mean, you can break a pump, but I've never done that. Mind you, I keep buying new pumps, so maybe I'm not the right person to ask that question. The negatives of this pump are a few. This pump does not come with any mechanism to attach it to the frame. You can use your own frame strap system if you have one. Wolf-Tooth Components makes a good one. That's what I use. Or you stick it into your handlebar bag or your back pocket or whatever. It's a fairly good size. I mean, it's smaller than the one I used to have. The other negative is, I said, the CO2 inflator in there is the cheaper one. The Lezyne control drive. I love this thing. This thing's great. There's no way to get that in here, unfortunately. Just for the people who want to know the specific details, I'm going to put specs right here on the screen for you in case you want to know. The biggest one is it weighs 282.8 grams if you're that type of person to care. And like I said before, its maximum PSI is 30 or 2.1 bar if you're from the other side of the pond. And I was also going to mention some alternatives. I have not tried these out. I want to, and hey, if you want to send me a pump to try out, I'd be quite happy to. What I've been using up till now is one of these, and I don't have a road bike anymore, so it's not an issue. My recommendation from what I've seen and what I've tried out, probably one of the Silca products. There's a Tatico, and then there's the Silca Impero Ultimate, which is a frame pump, which I really like the concept of. From what I can tell, it doesn't use a hose. You have to kind of chuck it right up into the valve, which I'm not a big fan of. I wish they had added a little hose. Maybe it'll work for you, and the fact that it's a full-size frame pump means you won't be sitting there for 100 pumps trying to fill up your tire to like 80 psi or 100 psi, whatever it is you run. One of the criticisms that a lot of people have about Lezyne pumps in general is the threaded chuck. They hate them for some reason. I've been using Lezyne floor drives for over a decade, and I've had this, and then before that, these for quite some time. I've never had an issue. And so generally the thing people complain about is that when you thread this on, when you're unthreading it, you unthread your valve core. And that's a problem, because if you do that while you're trying to get your tire inflated, you've just released all the air pressure in your tire. Fair. What are people doing? I have never done this. I've had Lezyne pumps, like I said, for over a decade. I've never, ever, ever done this. What are people doing? So the only thing I can think of is, A, they're running tubes with removable valve cores, which do exist. It's strange, but they do. And those will be, the valve cores will be sealed from the factory, right? Because you're not inflating those tubeless, so why would you use the valve core? The other is, maybe it's the way people set up tubeless tires. There are multiple ways to set up tubeless tires. The way I set up tubeless tires is I use a tubeless tire injector, and I inject the tubeless sealant through the valve core, which means I then have to tighten the valve core myself using a valve core tool. So I know it's tight. So maybe if you are just the type of person to pour sealant into the tire and then seal it up and not inject the sealant through the valve core like I do, which I don't recommend, incidentally, because you're not preceding the bead, your valve core might be loose from the factory. When you go to undo the chuck, you're taking your valve core with you and you uninflate it. I could see that being a problem. But otherwise, I love the peace of mind that once you've attached this, this is not coming off. I've seen a lot of YouTubers complain about this. I even seen a YouTuber demo that happening to them in a review of a different Lezyne pump. I've never had that problem. You shouldn't either if you properly tighten your valve cores after sealing them with tubeless sealant. Maybe you don't do that and you rely on a shop to do that, and the shop didn't tighten your valve core enough. I don't know, go yell at your shop afterwards then, if that happens to you. Oh, and it's expensive. It's one of the most expensive pumps, but if you think about all the stuff that it comes with, it's got the CO2 cartridge, the inflator, the bacon strips, the nice long hose, the reversible chuck, you know, all these things, this makes it a great pump, and I highly recommend it.